What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast where we can listen to trans and gender non-binary voices telling us their story in their voice, reminding us that each of us is not alone. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Not Alone. I'm here with the perennially favorite Celia Daniels. Celia, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Darshan, for asking. It's been a lot, but we take it one day at a time. So I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Of course. And depending on when you guys listen to this, Celia has recently come back from India. So she has all new stories to tell us, all new experience to discuss. And we hope to get into those in the future. For those who are keeping track, we last were discussing Celia's journey into her 20s, is my recollection. And we were talking a little bit about how she was trying to understand who she was. And Celia, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you've always identified as attracted to women. You've identified in a male form as straight, as in a female form, you're still attracted to women. I don't know what terms you use. So I'm going to let you first describe that so that I don't step on my own foot, if you will.
Yeah, my sexual orientation is heterosexual. It's like more attracted to women. But when I am Celia, it's like I'm a trans lesbian, which is funny.
Exactly, which is why I didn't know if you saw those as two separate roles or you saw it as one consistent and individual, if you will. And the reason I ask is you use she, they pronouns, so I always want to be respectful of that. So and if you can do a recap, talk to me about some of your, at this point in your life, you were still sort of, we were talking about you coming to the US. Did you had only one girlfriend? Is that my recollection? I can't remember. Could you remind me a little bit about sort of who you were attracted to, who you were speaking to, and how that played itself out?
I am since I was a child, I've always been attracted to women, and
Right.
One of the confusions as I had as a child was that I'm not gay. My sexual orientation is more attracted to this opposite sex, which was opposite sex at birth. I would say that's women, and it's always been that way. My gender identity has, though I have gone through so many challenges, or I would say so many facets in my gender identity, my sexual attraction or my romantic attraction towards women has always been consistent. And even till today, I don't think that has ever changed.
And have you found yourself to be attracted to feminine-looking women, masculine-looking women, or just women in general?
I think feminine-looking women, because I'm very feminine in my style and fashion sense. I always wear certain types of clothing which is very feminine, and I admire people when they have a good sense of fashion, and especially when they have a good hairstyle, the way they put on their makeup. I admire every bit of the femininity that exists in the world, whether it's from the trans folks or even from the women. It's always been an area where I've always been attracted to the femininity that exists in the world.
Very, very cool. So when you were, so talk to me about your early dating life. We may have discussed this for those people who are listening to this in series, but we missed Celia for a few months, so we're trying to recap as well before we launch into the phases of her life we haven't heard about yet. So, Celia, talk to us a little bit about the types of women you would ask out, and when would you tell them, and how would that play out overall?
That's a great question. I have been attracted to girls and been going out with quite a few, but I think at some point I was always scared telling them about Celia, because I didn't know how they would react to the situation, or they would misunderstand me, judge me, even ostracize me in a sense where I had a good group of friends and I was in relationship with this good-looking girl, and we were professionally very advanced in what we were doing. We were mature, we were adults at that point. This is before my marriage. But I think I was not sexually attracted to her. I was attracted to her femininity, which was more like, I would say, she was very smart, tall, and good person. It was fun hanging out with her. That was it. But I've never asked her how she felt about me because I don't know how she felt about me. She used to take me in her bike. I used to sit in the back actually, and go around the streets in India. We used to watch movies, go to restaurants. We never were attracted to each other sexually or even romantically, but we were just good friends. And I think even till today, we remain as friends, but never had the intention of moving to the next level because I always felt like I need to have my own family if there was one, and have a child. And I didn't, there were a lot of women in my life that came and went because of my interest in music, and I was in different parts of India. I was traveling. I was in some roles on the stage, especially performing on the stage. So there was always an encounter with women, and I felt like I wanted to be friends with them, and I really wanted to tell them about Celia, and I wanted to, even dress up with them if there was an opportunity for me to do that. But it never got to that point. Never ever got to that point. And there was a lot of fear. I think when you're a person just coming out of the closet and trying to date women, and also wondering about your own gender identity, it is a little bit of a conundrum where you kind of feel like, what am I into? What is this complex? How complex is this? Do I really need to expose? How much amount of my personal life do I need to expose with her to her? So it gets a little more difficult, and because you always feel like I can get over this, maybe someday I'm going to get over it, but I want to go on with my life. I just want to have this relationship. I want this friendship to blossom into something else. So you always have all these ideas and thoughts that keeps coming in your mind, but doesn't really help. I would say it doesn't really help because it is confusing, and you have not decided how you want your life to be, and then you are already also having another person with you, adding it to the confusion that we are going through. Dating as a trans person is, when you not come to them, is very complex. It's really complex. It's not a good idea because it's good to kind of tell them upfront about who you are and then see how your dating scenario goes. But you have gone really well in your relationship, and then you're trying to expose the most vital part of your life and expecting her to accept that. I don't think it's fair on them as well. And that's why I say that it's very, very complex. And but my advice, I think, Darshan, is to tell people about who we are. And now things have changed, times have changed. Now we can tell them that, hey, I'm trans or gender non-binary. People understand. But those days, the only term we had was, I like to wear women's clothes. That's all, because you're not changing your gender, and wearing women's clothes was more like a cross dresser, which never really sat well with anybody, even the medical community, professional community, even personally with the family. If you just tell them I like to dress like a woman, you are not taken seriously.
Mhm.
That is the issue.
So I have a lot of questions about that. So I'm gonna start with what you said here, which is I I hoped that I would get over it. And the many conversations I've had talk about the continuous cycle of collecting clothes and then purging the clothes,
Mm.
collecting the clothes and purging the clothes. Did you ever have that
Oh yeah,
purging?
it was there.
Um, just out of curiosity, do you miss any clothes that you had that you don't have anymore because it got lost in the purge?
I still have a lot of my clothes, but when I still miss that long skirt that I sat and stitched in Chennai. And I wore that skirt for 2 years because I was afraid to tell a tailor that I wanted to make a skirt. So I just asked him to hem, and then I started stitching the whole lining together. And I miss that skirt. I remember it's a cotton skirt, and it was like the fruit of the labor, Oh, this is something that I really made, and it's so personal to me. And I also miss that beautiful the skirt that I completely stitched when I was in my ninth grade, and I wore that skirt outside. I think in the previous podcast we talked
Yeah.
about me wearing a long skirt,
Yeah.
and that was a skirt that I actually stitched, and I dyed it also. I took some color and I dyed it, made it all pink flowers. um, it's just I think these are great memories for us to keep it in our museum of our journey, just to keep ourselves encouraged that we miss certain things and sometimes we don't miss certain things. But I definitely miss those two skirts because they were really vital. And it actually, it's more than a skirt. It kept me through gender dysphoria. When I wore that skirt, it transformed me like a Wonder Woman. It made me feel like I'm a woman, and my gender dysphoria is going down and my anxiety level went down. I was breathing slowly. I was so happy. And it's if that dress can give you that joy, just imagine how much important it was for us. And for us to purge it was really hard because you're trying to think that I really want to wear this, but I don't want to because my life is getting all messed up. I'm going to throw it out. And then I had to condemn that skirt. I threw it in the kuam actually because I was so mad at myself. My life was in a mess. I took a rock. I tied the skirt around it. I put it in a bag and I went and threw it in the Kuam bridge. And in my recent visit to India, I actually wanted to go to that particular spot and take a picture. The reason is I was thinking when I purged my skirt that one of the days I would jump into that river and kill myself too.
Wow.
It was that emotional at the time for me to just purge that skirt was like purging a part of my
Yeah.
emotion, part of my identity.
Um. So I asked the question of which skirts
Mhm.
were important, and you talked about the purging of the skirts, which I think is very interesting. Um, I'm going to ask the exact opposite question.
Mhm.
Did you ever wear an outfit and go, this this outfit was supposed to free me and it did nothing, it's just clothes? Do you know what the
Mhm.
emotion I'm talking about?
Mhm. I think there was a stage in my life where our identity, I identify more in the feminine side of my gender identity. What that also means is anything that is masculine sometimes really doesn't give you that joy or that comfort that you're looking for. One of that is jeans and t-shirt. I sometimes wear that because I have to do some chores at work, at home, or I have to run around, go to the gym. I have certain clothes that I wear. To me, wearing a tight, like the churidar bottom, there's a tight knit, like um, skin tight. I don't know what to call it. I mean, I'm losing words, but skin tight outfit, and then I wear my top on that. It just makes me feel like it's just another Indian outfit. It wasn't feminine to me. It wasn't really giving me the joy that I wanted. But there is a point in my life where clothes also give us confidence. Like wearing a suit for a business presentation gives you confidence too. I have done that a lot of times before I completely transition. It gives you confidence, and same thing even comes with clothes. There are certain clothes that you wear that gives you that confidence, that gives you the personality of who you are. And to me, there are certain clothes that I have in my closet, and I know when I wear that, I can go and give a business presentation to any CEO in the world. I have no problem. But there are certain clothes when I wear that I'm always conscious about what people will think. Are they going to laugh at me after I leave that room? You have all these thoughts running in your mind and thinking about, are they taking me seriously by this outfit that I'm wearing today? And that applies in our general life too. But to your point, to your question, anything that was very gender neutral, like a jeans, is gender neutral clothing. Actually, it's not men or women. No matter what you do, what cut you give, it is jeans is jeans. It's gender neutral, and for me, that never cuts it. It never gives me the Celia that I really want to be. So I always wear dresses. Long dresses are my favorite, and I also match based on my body type as well. So what goes with my body type, my the way I present myself, and so I have found what really works for me, and I keep working on it. I don't challenge it. Like I won't wear a swimming suit. No way. It's hard. I'm not that great with the swimming suit, so there are some outfits which I know will really go well, and you stick to it.
And I'm sorry, I feel like we're jumping around in time right now, and this was supposed to be a
Mm.
different time. But I find these questions interesting because they set a base, they answer questions that we haven't thought of. But let's explore this feeling right now. You talked about clothes. You talked about clothes you missed, clothes you don't miss.
Mhm.
Um, you were just in India, and you mentioned that sometimes you present in a more masculine flavor, if you will. Um, if that's true, do you still enjoy, if that's the right word, wearing men's clothes in the right situation, or is it always Celia, or is it sometimes that you just want to put on a pair of track pants, and that'll get you to where you need to be functional? How does that play for you mentally?
There is a part of my life when I'm with my wife, I present as Daniel, for the family. For the first time, we are meeting her brother, sister, and my earrings are. I have earrings. My ears are pierced. In our culture, men don't pierce your ears. I'm not in the Brahmin culture. Um, so growing up as a Christian, if your ears are pierced, people are curious as to what the heck, what's wrong with you. If you completely shave and they ask you what's wrong with you, because everyone wants to have some kind of hair on their face. And I like to have the hair on my, like eyebrows. That's the only hair I have. So when I present myself gender neutral, I think gender is a spectrum to me. There are times when my wife will say, "Can you wear this? Can you be a little more, because we're going to this place?" And I will work with her on that. But there are times when she just even picked up earrings for me. We went and did shopping, and she would say, "Okay, I'm going to let you buy your clothes." And, I bought my clothes. So there are times when I have to present gender neutral, which was more like if you wear a kurta, it is very gender neutral. But for me, I didn't realize that when I wore just a plain track like t-shirt, it's more like a sweatshirt and jeans. That's what I wore the whole time. It was just sweatshirt and jeans, and it was very gender neutral. And my earrings were there, and I didn't have my wig on, but I had my hair, which was almost like a Meryl Streep kind of, in Devil Wears Prada. And I want to really grow my hair because I have a style close to that, and I didn't cut my hair because I like that little, bronzy thing, and the silver hair, gray hair, which kind of led me through some of these gender dysphoria, I would say. And especially when you're traveling through certain countries, you can see your gender dysphoria is just going up. Like, for instance, I was traveling through Saudi Arabia, actually Saudi Arabia, not even the Gulf, not even, not talking about Dubai or Riyadh or any place. Saudi Arabia, and it was, we had to go through Saudi, and it's especially very, very masculine place. And there is no part of femininity in a man that can be exposed in that place, because people will look at you in a weird way. Um, so when I was going through that, I felt very little bit gender dysphoric. And I was telling my wife, look at the women here. They may all be so pretty, and they are just covered in the the hijab and other outfits. But to me, I think it's complex when you go to India, because your identity is tied to this masculine name. There's Daniel and then male, very clear. And everything in India is patriarchal. Like they always ask for your father's name. They ask, and then the son is more important. If you're a son and you can sell the house easily, if you're a daughter and you happen to have a brother, then the brother takes precedence because it's easy for the brother to sell the house. No matter in Tamil Nadu, it's a little easy, but in some states, it's really hard. And I even had a friend of mine who has a brother, and she wants to sell her house, but she said, "Let it be easy if my brother does that," because there is a little bit of patriarchy. And also, if she was applying for a particular application, she always had to mention her husband, and they had to get my ID. They wanted me there, so I had to be the man for her there, and it's really hard. You can't be a woman because you're going to lose a lot of things. If you stand there and say I'm a woman and I have become a woman, it doesn't work in India. They're going to kick you out of the place. They'll be like, not going to work because we want this man here. And you may say India has moved its needle, but it's not. In my opinion, it's not for certain reasons. If you are an NRI coming back to India and you have transitioned or you are in the phase of transitioning, the difficulties and challenges you face are going to be very different from compared to an Indian trans person being raised in India and they go through the changes. It's much more accepted. So I had written a blog about NRIs, what kind of issues you might face if you are planning to transition. Immigrant, you want to make sure everything is done and you have the right kind of legal air certificates, make sure that everything is done. So I literally went through the whole 9 yards and had to even pretend to the buyer that I am a masculine person. Though I had earrings, my earrings were becoming very small based on where I went. And when I'm not meeting people, I usually have nice big earrings, which made me look like I was very feminine. And people were staring at me. Even when I went to the restaurant, they were looking at me, and they always gave a second look. And some women, especially aunties, were like, "What is he wearing?" I could hear them talk in Tamil. It was
Wow.
fun. Yeah, it is. It's a little interesting in India, especially if you're clean shaven and you have earrings, then you look feminine. If you have earrings and if you have beard and all that, that takes away your, it's a little bit masking in terms of your femininity. But I was trying to be as gender neutral as possible, and navigating through the patriarchal system is definitely challenging. I even had to pretend to my buyer that I'm a really masculine guy. I had to pretend like I was very busy and all that because I didn't want to give him an impression that I'm a trans person. I was even afraid, what if he comes to know, would his religion allow him to buy from me? All kinds of weird thoughts ran in my head. But what if this person thinks that I'm not dealing with a trans woman? I'm not buying this house from a trans woman. So I had to make it very clean, and whenever I interacted with him, I had to keep it very formal. Though they invited me to a lot of places, and I said no, thank you. And it was a little gender dysphoric, and every time I would come back to my house, I would feel like, oh my god, I want to slip into the nightie. Get me into that. I would just remove everything, jump into my nightie, and just sip some juice or something and watch TV. It was like so relaxing. It's, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, gender dysphoria. It's like breathing under the water for a while, and you can only breathe for some time. So when you come out of the water, you you crave for your real identity. While you're underwater, it doesn't matter because you're not breathing and you're trying to be in whatever phase, whatever identity, doesn't matter. I need to get along, get out of this. That's what you think. And well, if people want you to be a man, it's like, okay, throw it on me, bring me a suit, I'll wear it. But I'm not going to wear this in the evening. That's how it is for trans folks.
So I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, we're at time, and we could have a minor discussion about um, your romantic life before we talk about your wife, but I feel like that's better kept for a different conversation.
Mm.
Before we go, any last words?
I think my experiences has even over age, especially when you're getting old. I'm 50. I turned 53. Sorry, 54. And to me, you look
Happy
at world.
birthday. Did I wish you, by the way? I think I
I'm
did.
sorry. Yeah,
Did
yeah,
I
you
wish
did.
you?
You,
Okay,
of course,
okay,
you did. Thank you so
of
much
course.
for that.
Yeah,
And I responded back to you as well.
I think you
The
did.
yeah, and I think over age we sometimes look at life differently. What are our priorities? We're going to die someday, especially coming out of COVID, going back to India and seeing people. It has really shaken them up. It's shaken so many people that they have started reprioritizing what they want to do in their lives. And even when I spoke about trans, some of my relatives were really open about it. They are like, you know what? Who are we to judge? Let them live their lives. It was very interesting, the conversation. And they probably would have been the people who said, that's wrong. They're going to hell. Now, people are thinking differently. And I definitely see some kind of a little bit of an emotional shakeup in people after they have seen death in every family. And it has shaken them up. People are a little more accommodating. They are not very aggressive to each other. I have seen that a little bit, and I was also I changed my attitude that I need to be a little more patient with folks who misgender me or who are not able to understand me, because life is short. And I my mom and dad, they it was their anniversary in February and in January. I was there and I went to the grave and I thought to myself, what if my parents were alive? What would they tell me? And one thing that hit me hard was my dad and mom, they always had a heart for the marginalized community. And I had the privilege of, feeding the marginalized community in Coimbatore. And Kalki had, with help of Kalki, I was able to give groceries and food and clothing to like 40 trans women, which made me feel like this is what I want to do. And this is how I think you can change the world by being a trans person, to recognize trans community in India, to be there for them, to be more compassionate, not just being judging even people who are different or they've been marginalized in a different way. I think that changed me. And that is the last words that I wanted to leave our audience with is if you are struggling with your gender identity, do something about what you can do for the community. It can be as simple as just sending them a word of encouragement, or being there, listening to them. And a lot of ways to be engaged with people who are struggling with gender identity. So do what you can do best.
Thank you, Celia. I appreciate it.